And do you have any one lesson that stuck with you across this journey of yours that you'd like to share?
The one lesson is just keep keep moving forward. And I think about my parents and despite the hardships and not knowing what was going to happen, right? It's taking that leap of faith and stepping into the unknown, going across the globe with three young children, plus one on the way. My mom was pregnant with my sister when they left, and the guiding force was making a better life for their children and having that impact for their children and continuing to move forward. And that's the lesson for me, is that regardless of hardships, disappointments, whatever that may come in life, because it happens to all of us. Wallow, if you will, for the time being, right? Feel sorry for yourself for that time being, but then pick yourself up and keep moving forward, one step at a time, one day at a time. And eventually, one day you realize, hey, I got here. I think I did.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of The Pebble. And I am here with the beautiful Anne, and she is going to share her pebble, which I don't want to spoil, but it is a beautiful growth story from her teen years and about her discoveries of how she can share more of her spirit and just really follow in a legacy of volunteering. And she's been making the world better for a long time, a lot sooner than a lot of us. So I am very glad that she is my friend. I am proud to call her my friend and not just someone I know from the internet. I've actually hugged her. Yes, lucky I
Yay. We've been
am.
able to hug in person.
Yes, I like, in real life, friends are awesome too. I've got some true online only friends, and those do exist, but I'm happy to say that Anh Nguyen is one of my real life friends, and she has blessed us with some time here. So I don't want to waste a moment of it more. So, Anh, take it away.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. I am honored to be one of your guests on here. And yes, absolutely. It's been a joy to know you and get to know you over the years from social media breakfast and beyond. So thank you for having me here, and thank you for allowing me this space to have this conversation. I'm excited about it, and let's see where it leads, right? So where do we want to start?
Well, first, why don't we just give them a chance to get to know a little bit about you? What are you doing currently?
Sure. So, I am the owner of Amplified Marketing. I have been a marketing consultant and been in the trenches of marketing services for, gosh, almost 20 years. I keep thinking about it and realize, oh, the early 2000s was 20 years ago.
I know.
How how can that be? Over the years, I typically had worked with B2B brands, right? Businesses selling to other businesses, mostly a lot of software for some reason. And in the last year or so, and this is part of my evolution, I'm evolving the business to work more with purpose-driven brands, social ventures, social impact ventures, and nonprofits, because I want to take what I can do, my skills, my experience, and help to make an impact in the world in some way, shape, or form. And so those particular types of organizations, whether they're B2B or not, I'm still working in that space, but really with a focus on those three types of organizations.
That is awesome. And that is one of the reasons why I was immediately attracted to you as first a follower of your business, your brand, and then a friend, because I feel the same way about, not just doing something to have a business to, because we have to make money. We
Of
would all
course.
love to be part of, a non-dollar based economy if we could all do what we love and be independently rich and just give away our services, but that's not the way it works. So when we can do what we love help other people, and pay our bills. That is just the number one goal, is it not? So
Yes, that's a Venn diagram, right?
exactly. That is the Venn diagram for those of us who have developed our businesses around our passions.
Yeah.
And so then when we started to become friends, I was like, that's our connection, is that we want to do something bigger than ourselves, to leave our mark, right? And it's not our name on a building because we were so wealthy we could buy a plaque, but it's that people will remember us as having made their life better in some way.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a perfect lead into your pebble, because you said the word that when we were talking before really stuck with me, which was impact.
Hmm.
You wanted to make an impact. And when I describe the pebble to people, oftentimes people say, why the pebble? What does that mean? Why? Tell us what you mean by the pebble. And so I've had to wean it down, you know. And so I say that, well, think about when you throw the pebble into the water, it gets bigger the further away it
Yeah.
is, right? That's
The ripples that the
the
pebble
ripples,
makes.
exactly. So the ripples are larger the further it is. And that's, same thing with the impact on Earth. Like if something crashes into the Earth, the impact gets larger and larger the further away it is from you.
Yeah.
And so it resonated with me, though I know sometimes that might make it negative because you see those movies. So maybe you don't like that, like the asteroid with the impact.
I know, right? We think about that maybe with Bruce Willis when the asteroid was going to come destroy the Earth, and Bruce so selflessly gave himself, sacrificed himself to save the world.
Yes, so good, so good. But I don't think of it like that. I just think of it like the boom, 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 boom. If you make a strong impact, it does have the same thing, which is those doom, doom, doom. So it resonated in the same way, which is that small things can grow the further
Absolutely,
away. So
absolutely.
what do you think was the beginnings of your pebble?
Sure. For me, it really, what I remember and what stands out for me is when I think I was 15. Yeah. Yes, I was 15 because I couldn't drive yet. It was there was a summer between my freshman and sophomore year of high school. And some of my friends were like, oh, come volunteer with us, come be a candy striper with us at a hospital nearby. And that kind of gives away my age a little bit because I don't know that I've seen a candy striper in years. And we had those pinafores, right? Those seersucker pinafores.
Those of you
Just
young
right.
ones, a pinafore was a very cute piece of clothing. You pulled it over your head and it clipped behind you with buttons, or if you were really cute, it had a ruffle and it tied at your waist. And then
We did. We had a ruffle and we
you had
had,
the best kind of pinafore.
yes, and it zipped in the back, it tied in our waist. And in fact, I think I had my mother make it for me, because they showed us what the uniform was supposed to look like. And my mother was a seamstress, she's a retired seamstress, and I asked her to make it for me. And seersucker, who's seen seersucker material in years too, right?
Seersucker, Google it.
Google that. There's no way we can explain it. But that's how it all started. I was like, sure, my friends were doing it. I thought I'll do it too. But once I got there, something kind of clicked for me, and I thought, okay, this makes me feel really good to volunteer. And we did it all summer. So, instead of just sitting around watching TV and doing nothing, and during the summer, we did this for a number of years. Every summer, the same group of us came back. The funny thing is my friends loved to volunteer on the floor where the babies were, right? The nursery. Who doesn't love the babies? But that wasn't me. I volunteered on the floors where the adults were. There were two floors where there were a lot of older patients. And I went in there and I talked to them, I handed them magazines, and that's what made me feel really good. And they appreciated having a visitor in essence, even though I was doing my duties and stuff like that. I ended up working up in the front desk. Surprise to you, right? Greeting people, kind of helping them figure out where they were
She's
going from the
terribly shy.
hospital.
So this was a terrible position to put her in.
So shocking. But like I said, I did that for every summer for my entire high school career. And then by the time I became a senior, there was a requirement that you had to have 100 hours of volunteer work to graduate. And I went, well, we could have added all my summers, but that's okay. I went back to the same hospital, volunteered as an adult volunteer, didn't get to wear the cute little candy stripe pinafore any longer, and worked out my 100 hours there. But that's kind of where it all started. I really felt good about being able to give back in a way and to make an impact on people. And like I said, I enjoyed being on the floors where the adults were and kind of just helping their day be a little bit better, hopefully, and seeing that smile on their face because being in the hospital is no fun at all. So that's how it all started.
And you learned early of one of the things that I see from the Pebble is the feedback loop that you feel better when you make others feel better.
Absolutely. And I'll share a really quick anecdote with you, like years later, right? Like fast forward 30 years, something like that almost. I lost a very good friend of mine in the winter of 2013. And the week after I lost him, I showed up at a 5K for the Arthritis Foundation. I had committed to volunteering, and so I was still going to do it. And one of my friends who was helped running it said, "Why are you here? I would not have expected you to be here. You're." I said, "Because I, I want to feel better." Right? I was grieving, and I knew that being there and helping them and helping others would help me to feel better. And so it absolutely does. I believe it. And that led me on this road of just really volunteering over the years throughout my entire adult life and really wanting to make that impact. I think you and I discussed it because it finally dawned on me. I was like, why why does it make me feel so good to volunteer? Why is it that I'm seeking out these opportunities to make an impact? My family and I were refugees after the Vietnam War, and we were able to leave due to my dad's service in the military. And he had been, in the South Vietnamese military, and we were backed by the U.S. And so we were able to leave via a plane. Granted, we had nothing but the shirts on our back, but we were very fortunate to have left the way that we did. There were many others who had to face, very dangerous situations being among one of the boat people with piracy and other things that could have happened to them at sea. And we were very fortunate to have left the way we did. And I have long held on to the belief that I was brought here for some kind of reason, for some kind of purpose. And so in doing all the things I've done over the years, it's helped me to figure out what that purpose is and to give back. And to give back to the country that has opened its arms to my family and given us an opportunity. And also really to um, help really further my dad's legacy. I feel like that's part of his legacy, helping us to get here, making sure that his family was safe. And so in that way, I honor him.
And that's truly beautiful. And I appreciate that because I am a strong believer that you cannot have a happy life without gratitude. That's to me basically the key to happiness is gratitude, because from that you see what you have. And if you cannot see what you have, you won't, like, then you'll only want what others have.
Absolutely. I mean, again, we came over, we literally had nothing, but we were together. My parents were with their children. We were not separated, like so many other families were. One of my dad's younger sisters was able to come with us and be able to have a better life here as well. She would not have had a whole lot of opportunity in Vietnam. And so it was just a blessing that we were all able to be together. And really, even further, a blessing that this couple who were older, their children were, out of the home, had adult children who had their own families. They were willing to help sponsor a young family that they didn't even know, who did not really speak the language. My dad was the only one who spoke English, and they welcomed us into their homes and gave us a place to land in the Houston area for several months until, we could get on our feet and get into a rental home and all these things. And I'm forever grateful to them. I still keep in touch with Grandma Nell. She's the only one who is still with us. I call her Grandma Nell. And she's very elderly as well. And I don't really look forward to the day that we will lose her, because I feel like that's another aspect that we will be losing from my history, because we lost my dad 2 years ago.
Um, that is a precious gift that they offered you. And I'm glad that they offered it to you so that I would know you. And that's an example of the pebble they gave you, because the rings that
Absolutely.
provided, and now you are sharing your pebble. And would love it if you would share a little bit about how you are collecting stories of others like you that have had interesting trips to their American dream.
Mhm.
And because I am obviously I was born here, and I come from multiple generations here, and I know even if you
Yeah.
try not to, I take it for granted. It's just anything that you have easily, even when you try to live in gratitude, you take it for granted because that's just the basis of your life. So I'm very appreciative when people share their stories and how they've had to work for and have something that I've gotten easily, because it gives me an opportunity to be more thankful.
Yeah. No, thank you for asking me about it. It's something that it was an idea that's lived in my head for a number of years. And finally, but I need to make this happen, especially again after losing my dad. Whenever I share the story of how my family came here and were refugees, everybody says, "Oh, you should write a book, Anne." I mean, I've heard that for years. That's the first thing they say. You should write a book. What a great story. Well, ours is only one out of thousands upon thousands of stories like that. And our story alone could not fill a book. So I thought, well, how wonderful would that be? How great would that be to be able to curate and collect these stories from other families who are similar to ours and other refugees, and be able to share it in a book and be able to share it for the next generation? Because you mentioned your family has been here for countless generations. And so you may not remember that origin story, if you will. And even just seeing the two generations after us, my cousin's children, they have no idea where they came from. They have no idea what their grandmother or their great aunt, great uncle, or their mom's cousins went through to come here. And even my own cousins who were born here have no idea. Truly, they've heard the stories, but I would love for them to be able to have something that they can reference back to. But as I mentioned, also share other family stories. I've come across other projects doing similar things, and it's been great to see it. And I'm going to continue still curating, collecting stories. So if anybody out there is a Vietnamese family that were refugees, or your parents or your grandparents, I'd love to chat with them and eventually, excuse me, write a book. I'm not going to make it for the 50th anniversary, which is next year, but I would like to at least start releasing some of those stories via a blog and then be able to curate it all into a book eventually. And that idea led to a live stream that I launched. Oh gosh, during COVID, I think it was. Feels like it was so long ago, doesn't it?
COVID
I
time was like halftime. You know what I mean? It was just like,
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And also not only COVID, but during that time we had very tenuous kind of political climate, without getting into politics, really thinking of
no, it's a fair
how
statement. No matter what side you're on, that it was tenuous.
it was a tenuous time, especially for immigrants and others. And I wanted people to understand that immigrants are humans too. And if we share those stories and show that human side of an immigrant story, that would hopefully resonate with others, or at least help people to understand what others are going through, to help really lessen that divide and that hate. And so
Amen.
I launched a live stream called Children of the Dragon. And I called it that because there is a creation myth, if you will, of how Vietnam as a country was created. We are descendants of a dragon king and a fairy queen. How much of that is true? I don't know. I tease. I'm joking. And so that's why I call it Children of the Dragon. Plus, the country is shaped like a dragon. And so I'm going to stick with that name. I have done some research and haven't really found others who've done the same thing as I. So I think I'm good on the name. But the whole idea was for me to share those stories via the live stream of Vietnamese refugees. But at the time, because of, again, the climate, I started sharing stories of other immigrants. I have a great story of a man whose family was from Iran, and he was in his family's home when it was bombed. And he's come here and has made a life for himself. And so those are, just an example. But my focus going forward will be more on the stories of the Vietnamese refugees.
Well, I think Children of the Dragon should stick. I love it. And I think you would be a perfect example of someone that's a daughter of a queen fairy. I knowing you.
Dragons are supposed to be fierce creatures, right? That are powerful and amazing and magical. And so
I see you as the princess born to those two. I get that. But I also do appreciate you sharing that platform for at the time for anyone because it's funny, and we could probably have a whole nother episode that I'd love to have about how we often one-on-one have no problem with anybody, but when we create groups, we forget humanity.
Mhm.
And my my beloved nanny from originally from New Orleans and then Beaumont, Texas was like that. She and it's a long story, but she was like that. She could be beautiful one-on-one, and then she was awful when it came to groups. And I,
Oh gosh, yeah.
part of my history, and I acknowledge that. But yet she could be great one-on-one, and it's so frustrating. And so I think that there's a lot of Pebble stories there too.
Yeah.
But for today's Pebble, you've shared such beauty with us. And do you have any one lesson that stuck with you across this journey of yours that you'd like to share?
Oh gosh. The one lesson is just keep moving forward. Place one foot in front of the other. And I think about my parents, and despite the hardships and being not knowing what was going to happen, right? It's taking that leap of faith and stepping into the unknown, going across the globe with three young children, plus one on the way. My mom was pregnant with my sister when they left, and the guiding force was making a better life for their children and having that impact for their children and continuing to move forward. And that's the lesson for me, is that regardless of hardships, disappointments, whatever that may come in life, because it happens to all of us, just wallow, if you will, for the time being, right? Feel sorry for yourself for that time being, but then pick yourself up and keep moving forward, one step at a time, one day at a time. And eventually, one day you realize, hey, I got here.
Amen. I couldn't say it better than that. Thank you. Oh, my friend. And I'm sure on their behalf, the Pebble audience thanks you. And all right. And
Thank
hey,
you for having me. Oh my gosh, thank you for allowing me to share my story.
absolutely my pleasure. And if you want more wonderful stories like this, be sure and subscribe, please. Thank you, guys. And we're clapping for you. Clapping, clapping,
Up,
clapping.
up, up.